Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are taking, well, an immediate and I think absolutely necessary detour to one of the most visually arresting locations on the planet, Iceland's south coast.
Hmm.
Specifically, we're diving into Jökulsárlón Glacier Lagoon and its stunning counterpart, the black sand expanse known as Diamond Beach. It's just this incredible place where ancient icebergs meet the Atlantic.
It really is. I mean, this location, it's a global cinematic marvel, isn't it? It's consistently ranked as a must-see for these, otherworldly ice formations floating out to sea.
Yeah.
However, compared to maybe the waterfalls and the volcanic beaches that are closer to Reykjavík, Jökulsárlón, it sits at a considerable distance.
Right.
And for most visitors, especially if you're trying to maximize a short trip this distance, it creates a pretty serious logistical and planning challenge.
Exactly. And that's why we pulled together, well, quite a stack of visitor guides, detailed itinerary suggestions, cost breakdowns, and really importantly, safety warnings.
Hmm.
Our listener, the learner, they need a shortcut. They need a comprehensive guide to planning this journey without, turning their holiday into some grueling 14-hour endurance test.
Yeah, exactly. So our mission today is really to distill the essential stuff, the logistics, the cost, the safety information from all these sources we looked at. We need to help you, the listener, overcome that distance challenge, understand the crucial timing windows, and choose the right way to really experience the ice.
We want to ensure a successful, well-timed, and just entirely rewarding South Coast journey.
Hmm.
So let's cut through the planning anxiety and deliver the core verdict right away. Based on everything we analyzed, Jökulsárlón is, well, emphatically worth the effort.
Mm.
It is just unparalleled globally for that cinematic scale for ice photography
Yeah.
and, the chance to spot seals and varied bird life. It's amazing.
But, and this is the absolute crux of the matter, it came up again and again, that high value is only unlocked if you commit to smart travel planning. You must, and the sources are just relentless on this point, you must avoid the punishing out-and-back day trip from Reykjavik.
Yeah, that sounds brutal.
It is. The reward is high, definitely, but it requires, let's say, earned patience and specifically committing to an overnight stay somewhere along the south coast.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Let's dive straight into the reality of that drive, because this seems to be where a traveler's expectation of, a simple 5-hour journey just crashes directly into the Icelandic road reality.
Right. Let's start with the hard numbers for self-driving because they look deceivingly simple on a map, don't they? The lagoon sits directly on the famous ring road, Route 1, which puts it about 370 to 380 kilometers east of Reykjavik.
Okay, 380 kilometers. Now, in many parts of the world, that's a comfortable 4-hour cruise control drive, maybe 4.5. So why are the sources so adamant that 5 hours is the absolute minimum, and why should we actually budget maybe 7 or even 8 hours one way? What is it specifically about Route 1 that makes it so time-consuming?
Well, the sources are relentless on this because the road structure itself, it just mandates caution and, frankly, lower speeds. Route 1, particularly on the south coast, it's predominantly a 2-lane highway, sure, but it's often quite narrow.
Okay.
It lacks wide shoulders for pulling over easily. And critically, the national speed limit is only 90 kilometers per hour.
Right, which is, what, about 55 miles per hour?
Exactly. So that's already slower than many international highways people might be used to.
And I'm guessing the conditions don't stay perfect for that 380 kilometers.
Oh, far from it. Iceland's road system, especially out there, features numerous single-lane bridges, often without much warning. You just come upon them. And they require reducing speed significantly, sometimes stopping completely, yielding to oncoming traffic.
Right.
Furthermore, the South Coast is infamous for its incredible, powerful winds.
I've heard about the wind.
Yeah, and these aren't just breezes. They can genuinely demand a driver slow down considerably just to maintain control of the vehicle, especially if you're in a smaller car or a camper van.
Wow.
So when you factor in those mandatory safety stops for the bridges, maybe occasional slow-moving farm equipment or other tourist traffic, the need to stop for fuel, which isn't available everywhere, and simply stretching your legs, well, that 5-hour number, it becomes completely fictional.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
That's a calculation made by a GPS, maybe, not a human driver who actually wants to, enjoy the scenery or arrive safely.
Right, so here's where it gets really interesting. The guides are basically saying, realistically, budgeting 7 to 8 hours one way is the only sensible approach. This accounts for maybe a quick photo stop at Seljalandsfoss or Skogafoss on the way out.
Which you'll want to do.
Exactly. The inevitable slower segments behind traffic, the bridge crossings, and just the need to drive defensively in potentially challenging conditions. If you set out thinking, oh, I'll get there in 5 hours, you'll just spend the entire day stressed, maybe speeding, which is incredibly dangerous in Iceland.
It really is. And this brings us directly to the infamous day tour dilemma.
Yeah.
Because, yes, there are these highly marketed, centralized day tours that run from Reykjavík all the way out to Jökulsárlón.
Right. They advertise convenience, sit back, relax, you don't have to drive.
Exactly. But when you actually calculate the time involved, okay, 7 to 8 hours driving out, maybe 2 hours at the lagoon itself if you're lucky, and everything runs perfectly on time.
Which it might not.
Which it often doesn't. And then another 7 to 8 hours driving back. These tours routinely result in a crushing 16-hour day.
16 hours. I mean, that's not a holiday. That's a true test of physical and mental endurance, surely.
It absolutely is. You spend the vast majority of your time just sitting, probably quite cramped in a bus or van. You likely arrive at the lagoon midday when the light is harshest and the crowds are thickest.
Right, when everyone else arrives.
Exactly. Only to feel rushed through the experience, grab a quick photo, and then face that long, exhausting drive back. You miss the best parts of the South Coast entirely, the things you pass in the dark or just glimpse through a window.
Okay, so the alternative for people who don't want to self-drive is often these private guided tours.
Yeah.
But the sources warn about the cost there, right?
Oh, yeah. The cost is, substantial. While these private tours offer luxury, flexibility, zero driving hassle, the price tag is serious.
Right.
We're talking about private South Coast runs that can easily top US $900.
Wow.
And often significantly more, especially in peak season. And that's just for the dedicated vehicle and the driver's time. That doesn't necessarily include activities or food.
$900 plus. Just for the transport for the day.
Pretty much. And that price tag really puts the decision into sharp focus for you, the learner.
Yeah, absolutely. That astronomical price tag for what is still essentially a rushed experience makes that overnight stay look like an absolute bargain in comparison.
Yeah.
Let's just do a quick cost thought experiment. If a private tour is $900 plus B, and a nice guest house or hotel near Skaftafell or Vik might run you, say, $150 to $250 for the night.
Reasonable estimate, yeah.
Then that overnight stay is fundamentally a cheaper, safer, and infinitely more enjoyable way to experience Jökulsárlón than that single-day dash, whether private or on a big bus tour.
Absolutely. It shifts your budget allocation. Instead of paying mostly for a punishing drive, you're investing in a relaxing base from which you can actually explore properly at a human pace.
Right.
But this whole discussion, it's incomplete without stressing the crucial variable that can completely undermine any tight itinerary, especially a day trip, the South Coast weather.
Ah, yes. The famously unpredictable Icelandic weather. Our sources really highlight that it flips fast and sometimes severely right. Planning a precise same-day itinerary is risky even in summer, apparently, but it becomes genuinely hazardous in the winter months.
Oh, winter brings a whole cascade of complications. We're talking about potential blizzards, sudden storms rolling in, patches of black ice on the road that are basically invisible until you hit them.
Scary.
Yeah. Gale force winds that can actually force road closures, especially for high-sided vehicles. And of course, very, very short daylight hours. Near the winter solstice, you might only have 4 to 5 hours of usable light.
Wow, only 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, so the sources mandate a really clear warning here. If you are traveling in the harsher months, let's say late October through March, maybe even early April, you absolutely must check the road conditions before you set out. Use the official Icelandic Road Administration website, road.is, and follow the official island alerts from safetravel.is.
So attempting a same-day out-and-back trip during winter is not just physically tiring.
It can become outright dangerous. You could potentially get stranded if a sudden storm closes the ring road behind you, trapping you on the wrong side of a major bridge or a mountain pass. It happens.
Okay, so what does this all mean for the learner planning their trip? It really dictates the recommended structure, doesn't it?
It does. The smart, rewarding strategy that emerges from all the guides is structuring a minimum 2-day South Coast loop.
Minimum 2 days.
Minimum. This allows you to efficiently spread that 7 to 8 hours of driving time over 2 days. It lets you incorporate all the essential sites along the way, like Seljalandsfoss, Skogafoss, Reynisfjara, Black Sand Beach, the glacier views without rushing, and most importantly, you plan your overnight stay somewhere strategically located, like near Vik or Skaftafell, or maybe even Húfin, which is a bit further east but closer to the lagoon.
Right. And this structure ensures you arrive at Jökulsárlón rested, not frazzled from driving. And crucially, it gives you the flexibility to actually catch the lagoon and Diamond Beach in the prime golden light conditions, early morning or late evening, which is essential for maximizing the visual impact.
Exactly. So the takeaway here is clear. That 5-hour drive is basically a myth. The reality is 7 to 8 hours, maybe more with stops and conditions. And the solution is to slow down, embrace the journey, and commit to at least 2 days for this part of your Icelandic adventure.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So let's assume our listener has wisely chosen the overnight option. They've conquered the drives, they've checked into their guest house, they've arrived at the lagoon. What's the next big decision?
It seems to be how you actually get on the lagoon, up close with those massive calving icebergs. Our sources present two distinctly different options for boat tours.
That's right. Once you're there, gazing out at this incredible landscape, you've got two main ways to get out onto the water. There's the, let's call it the mass appeal option, which is the amphibian boat.
Yeah.
And then there's the more specialized option, the Zodiac boat. And the choice between them really hinges entirely on two main factors: your budget and your ultimate goals for the experience, particularly if you're a serious photographer. Okay, let's break those down. Let's start with option one, the amphibian boat. You called it the value and accessibility option. What's that like?
So the amphibian boats are these large, quite sturdy vehicles. They look a bit like buses that can drive on land and then, well, drive straight into the water from the shore. It's quite a sight. They generally operate from May to October, though the exact season can vary slightly depending on the ice conditions, early or late season. The tour itself runs for about 30 to 40 minutes.
30 to 40 minutes.
Yeah, and it gives you an excellent kind of high vantage perspective as you navigate among the icebergs. You get a good overview. For the casual visitor who just wants to see the ice close up, this is often absolutely perfect.
And what about the cost? You mentioned value. We need to give people an idea, maybe translating those Icelandic krona figures.
Absolutely. The cost is significantly more accessible than the other option. For adults, the price is approximately ISK 6,900.
Okay, 6,900 ISK.
Right. And to put that into perspective for our international audience, depending on the exchange rate, obviously, but that translates to roughly US $50 to US $55, something like that.
$55. Okay.
Yeah. And child tickets are typically around ISK 3,500. So it's the cost-effective way to get right out there amongst the ice flows without needing, extreme mobility or paying a massive premium.
Got it. Okay, so that's the amphibian. Now let's talk about the Zodiac boat. You described this as the deep dive experience on the water, favored by people willing to pay substantially more for proximity and duration.
That's right. The Zodiacs are much smaller, faster, inflatable boats. Think rigid inflatable boats or iPraves. They sit much lower to the water. That's the key factor, really.
Lower down, closer to the ice.
Exactly. Which is crucial for serious photographers who are looking to capture that sense of scale, the reflections on the water, that really dramatic low angle. These tours typically run for a full 60 minutes, so you get more time out there.
An hour compared to 30, 40 minutes.
Yep. And because they're smaller and more maneuverable, they cover a greater expanse of the vast lagoon.
They truly get you closer to the action then, it sounds like. You really feel the immense cold scale of those bergs more intensely when you're practically skimming the surface right next to them.
Precisely. The guides often say they are authorized to get closer, within safe limits, obviously, and they use the boat's speed and agility to navigate into parts of the lagoon, maybe closer to the glacier face or into little coves filled with ice that the much larger, slower amphibians simply cannot reach.
Okay.
This proximity and maneuverability is why they are often booked out first by photographers and those seeking a more, adventurous feel. However, the price definitely reflects this premium experience.
Right. You mentioned a significant cost differential. What are we talking about here? Adult tickets run around ISK 15,700, and child tickets, where they're even offered on Zodiacs, are roughly ISK 7,900.
Yeah, so if we translate that ISK 15,700, again, depending on exchange rates, but currently that's running around US $150 to US $125 per person.
Wow. Okay, so that's a considerable jump. More than double the price of the amphibian tour.
It is, more than double.
That price difference really prompts a critical question for our listener, the learner, who's probably balancing budget against the kind of experience they want. For the average visitor who just wants a great photo for Instagram and the feeling of being among the ice, is that added duration and that low-angle perspective of the Zodiac really worth doubling the cost?
That's exactly where the synthesis comes in, and it depends on your priority. If your primary goal is high quality, maybe professional level photography, or you just love that feeling of being right down on the water, feeling the spray, then the Zodiac is probably non-negotiable for you.
Right.
That low angle completely changes the composition. It makes the icebergs look absolutely monumental. And you are also much more exposed to the elements on a Zodiac. You really feel the cold, the wind, the spray, which for some enhances that raw elemental experience.
Right. Makes sense for the enthusiast.
But conversely, if your goal is more about accessibility, maybe you have kids or you're managing a tighter budget, or you just want a safe, fantastic view of the lagoon without necessarily getting soaked, then the amphibian boat offers truly excellent value.
Yeah.
It gets you out there, you see the same amazing icebergs, just from a slightly higher, drier perspective. And it's often more comfortable for travelers who might have mobility concerns, as getting in and out is simpler.
Okay, that's a clear distinction. Now, regardless of which boat you choose, the sources seem unanimous on one point: booking ahead.
Oh, absolutely critical. Especially during the peak summer months, June, July, August, and even into the shoulder seasons, May and September, these tour slots fill up incredibly quickly.
Weeks in advance.
Months.
Weeks, definitely. For peak times, especially if you were chasing that specific golden light window we talked about, early morning or late evening, you might need to book months in advance to secure your preferred time slot on either boat type.
Wow. Okay, so don't just show up hoping to get on a boat at sunset. Definitely not. You'll likely be disappointed. You want the tours to fit your perfect timing window, the one you plan by staying overnight, not the other way around where you take whatever leftover slot is available at midday.
Right. So booking ahead ensures you actually secure the experience you decided you wanted and paid for, whether that's the cost-effective amphibian or the high-impact Zodiac.
Precisely. Lock it in early.
Okay. Great advice.
Yeah.
So you've done the drive, stayed overnight, chosen, and booked your boat tour. Now let's talk about the other half of this iconic duo, Diamond Beach.
Right. Transitioning from the, relatively still waters of the lagoon itself, the inevitable next step in the journey is to follow that ice out towards the ocean. You just walk across or drive across the bridge right there on the ring road.
The bridge over the outlet channel.
Exactly. And you arrive at Diamond Beach, which is the spectacular and often quite humbling final resting place for many of the icebergs that flow out of Jökulsárlón.
The phenomenon is just stunning, isn't it? You have this dramatic, deep black volcanic sand, which acts as the ultimate contrast, the perfect backdrop for these clear or sometimes intensely blue, luminous chunks of glacier ice. That sheer contrast is what makes the photos so instantly recognizable worldwide.
It really is stark beauty.
But let's talk about the dynamics. How does the ice actually get there? It calves off the glacier into the lagoon, floats across to the well. Then what? And what factors determine if the diamonds are going to be abundant when you visit? Because sometimes you see pictures where it's covered, other times less so.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the icebergs calve off the Jökull Glacier, which terminates right into the lagoon. They float across the lagoon, sometimes for days or weeks. Then they get drawn into this short but quite powerful river outlet that flows under the Ring Road Bridge and heads directly toward the sea. Once they hit the ocean, the powerful Atlantic currents and the tides take over. They batter the icebergs, break them up further, and then wash pieces of that ice ranging from tiny fragments no larger than your hand up to massive, multi-ton, car-sized blocks back onto the black sand shore.
So the ocean throws them back onto the beach.
Exactly. It's a constant cycle of outflow and inflow driven by the tides and waves. But the experience isn't uniform day to day or even hour to hour. The quantity and the quality, the appearance of these diamonds varies wildly.
Okay, let's dive into the science behind that variation. The sources mention seasonal differences. Why might the ice look different, or why might there be more or less of it, depending on whether you visit in summer versus winter?
Yeah, this is a fascinating insight, drawing a bit from glaciology. Seasonally, summer often has more individual pieces of ice scattered on the beach.
More ice in summer. Why is that?
Well, simply due to increased glacial melt rates in warmer temperatures, and therefore more frequent calving events happening back in the lagoon. More ice is being produced and flushed out. However, this rapidly melting summer ice is often more aerated. It contains more tiny trapped air bubbles from when the snow originally fell.
Okay.
And those air bubbles cause the ice to look milkier or whiter, less intensely colored.
Ah, okay. And the winter ice, why is that often described in the guides as being so vividly blue?
Right. In winter, the icebergs reaching the beach tend to be much older, denser, and harder ice. This ice has been compressed under the immense weight of the glacier for centuries, maybe millennia, forcing out most of those tiny air bubbles.
Right, compressed over time.
Exactly. So when sunlight hits this extremely dense, degassed ice, the water molecules absorb the longer wavelengths of light, the reds and yellows. What's left to scatter back to our eyes is primarily the intense blue light. This vivid blue color, set against the jet black sand, offers just incredible visual contrast. And of course, there's the added bonus possibility of seeing the northern lights dancing above the ice on clear winter nights.
That must be unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so season affects the color and maybe quantity. What about moment-to-moment variation? You mentioned the tide plays a continuous role.
It absolutely does. The presence and the density of the ice on the beach can change significantly depending on the state of the tide and also recent calving activity back in the lagoon. If the tide is coming in, actively pushing fresh pieces onto the shore, the beach can be absolutely piled high with glistening ice.
So high tide is good.
Often, yes, or a rising tide. Conversely, if you arrive right after a receding tide, especially a low tide, much of the ice might have been pulled back out or stranded higher up, and the density right near the water might seem much lower. Checking the local tide charts before you go is actually a really practical step that can directly influence your photographic opportunities.
Good tip. So knowing all this, the on-site strategy is key here. You don't just park the car, walk 10 steps, and assume that's the whole picture.
Definitely not. Our sources consistently advise a crucial two-pronged strategy for visiting this area. First, before you even think about the beach necessarily, walk the shore of the lagoon itself, maybe before or after your boat tour.
Okay, why the lagoon shore first?
To photograph the source of the ice, see those huge, often beautifully blue-striped icebergs still floating majestically in the calm water. And also, this is your best chance to look for seals. Seals are very frequently seen resting on the ice floes near the shore, or popping their heads up in the water before they head out to hunt in the ocean.
Ah, nice. Okay, so lagoon shore first for seals and floating bergs, then head over to Diamond Beach itself.
Yes, and once you're there, you absolutely must cross that bridge and thoroughly check both sides of the river outlet where it meets the ocean.
Both sides. Why?
Because the tidal currents, the wave direction, and maybe even the subtle geography of the seabed right there often mean that the prevailing wind, or current, concentrates the washed-up ice much more heavily on one side of the outlet than the other at any given hour.
Ah,
Seriously, one side might look relatively bare, while the other side, just a short walk across the bridge, could be truly piled high with fresh, glistening diamonds. So flexibility and walking the length of the beach on both sides is often richly rewarded with better views and photos.
got it. Explore both east and west banks of the outlet. Now, we need to shift gears to what you said earlier is the most critical point of this entire deep dive. Safety. Diamond Beach is visually breathtaking, absolutely, but it presents serious, specific hazards that are, according to the sources, often dangerously underestimated by tourists.
This cannot be overstated. We have to be really clear here. Safety is absolutely paramount because you have the immense power of the North Atlantic meeting this dynamic ice outlet. The two primary dangers are violent, unpredictable ocean dynamics, specifically sneaker waves, and the inherent instability of the ice itself once it's on the shore.
Okay, let's break those down. First, sneaker waves. You must maintain a strict, wide safety margin from the surf at all times. Let's elaborate on sneaker waves. That term sounds almost innocuous, maybe even cute, but the guides say they are absolutely treacherous and are the primary cause of accidents here.
They are deceptively named and incredibly dangerous. Sneaker waves are essentially rogue, unusually large waves that appear suddenly without obvious warning, surging significantly farther up the beach than any of the preceding waves.
Much further up.
Yeah, way further than you might expect based on the last few minutes of watching. They move with incredible force and speed, easily capable of knocking a fully grown adult off their feet, dragging them into the powerful undertow, which is freezing cold, by the way, or worse, pinning them under shifting, heavy pieces of ice.
Oh my.
The cardinal rule, repeated everywhere, is you should never turn your back on the ocean while you are on Diamond Beach, or any Icelandic black sand beach for that matter. Always keep watching the waves.
Okay. Never turn your back. Keep a wide distance. Now, the second absolute rule you mentioned is about the ice itself, the chunks washed up on the sand. Our sources insist never, under any circumstances, should you climb on, stand on, or even lean heavily against the shoreline ice. Why is this so crucial, even if a big piece looks solid and stable?
It might look stable, solid as a rock, but these ice chunks are sitting in an extremely turbulent, constantly shifting environment. They're being undercut by the moving sand beneath them as waves wash around them. They're being nudged and jostled by incoming waves. And often they have hidden air pockets or an unstable weight distribution you can't see.
Right.
An iceberg that looks large and firmly grounded can roll over instantaneously without any warning. Or a piece can break off. If you're standing on it or even right next to it, you could be trapped underneath in the freezing water and sand. This is an immediate, life-threatening situation with absolutely zero time for reaction.
That's terrifying.
It is. The stunning beauty of the beach is absolutely worth the visit, worth the drive, worth the planning. But risking your life for a selfie standing on top of a piece of ice is absolutely not. Maintain that wide safety distance from the surf and treat all the shoreline ice as unstable and potentially dangerous. Admire from afar.
Crystal clear. Respect the ocean, respect the ice, keep your distance. Okay, heavy but essential advice. Now let's move on to optimizing the experience, assuming we're being safe and smart.
Okay, yes. Let's focus now on how to really maximize the impact of your visit, especially since you've likely planned the logistics carefully and understand the safety essentials. The key to maximizing impact here, particularly if you're into photography or maybe just seeking a moment of quiet awe, is all about timing, finding that sweet spot between the best light and the fewest crowds.
And this links directly back to our initial advice, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To commit to that overnight stay locally. Why is having that local accommodation so vital for achieving the best possible experience at the lagoon and the beach?
It's vital because it allows you to effectively chase the golden light without having that 7 or 8 hour drive looming over you at either end of the day.
Right.
The best photographic light, that soft, warm, almost magical golden light, occurs during a relatively short window. Early in the morning, right as the sun is cresting the horizon, and again late in the day as it's descending towards setting.
The golden hours.
Exactly. And by planning your visit specifically during these shoulder hours of the day, you accomplish two really critical things. First, you capture the most saturated, glowing colors in the ice and the sky. The low-angle light just makes everything pop. And second, you benefit from significantly thinner crowds.
Yeah, the sources definitely confirm that reality. The big tour buses, the day trippers coming all the way from Reykjavík, they generally only arrive mid-morning, say around 10 a.m. or so, and most of them have to leave by late afternoon, maybe 4 p.m., to start that long drive back.
Precisely. Which means that window from, say, sunrise until about 10 a.m., and then again from maybe 5 p.m. onwards towards sunset, or even later in summer, completely transforms the atmosphere of the place.
How so?
Well, it moves it from being a, frankly, quite busy tourist site where you might be jostling for a good photo spot, especially near the bridge or the main parking areas, to being a genuinely contemplative, almost peaceful experience. You can find your own space, listen to the ice crackling, watch the seals without a huge crowd around.
Right.
And that light during the golden hour, it's essential because the low angle creates these long, dramatic shadows. It accentuates the incredible blue and white textures within the ice, and it can literally make the diamonds on the beach glow like they're lit from within, especially against that dark black sand backdrop. Midday sun tends to flatten everything out.
Right. Harsh light isn't great for ice. Okay, and that timing advice, chasing the golden hour, it applies equally to visiting the lagoon itself for the boat tour and exploring Diamond Beach.
Absolutely. You want to try and coordinate things. Pair your preferred boat tour time, if possible, with a walk along the lagoon shore and a visit across the bridge to Diamond Beach, precisely during these optimal light hours.
Okay.
If you happen to be there in high summer, you might even aim for the extremely low-angle light near the midnight sun period, which lasts for hours.
Yeah.
If you're there in spring or fall, you have a more traditional, shorter golden hour window, maybe an hour or so at each end of the day that you really want to utilize.
Got it. Plan around the light. Now let's talk practicalities, the checklist for what to bring. This environment, even in the middle of July, sounds like it demands specific preparation due to the wind, the mist, the general cold coming off the glacier and the ocean. What gear is absolutely necessary according to the guides?
Yeah, this environment is notoriously wet, windy, and subject to rapid temperature drops, even on what seems like a nice day. So, based on consistent advice and visitor regrets mentioned in the sources, we have a kind of mandatory gear list. First, you absolutely must pack high-quality windproof layers.
Windproof is key.
Absolutely key. The wind whipping off the massive Jökull Glacier just inland and across the open ocean is penetrating and can be constant. It just chills you to the bone if you're not prepared.
Okay. And waterproof clothing, you're saying that's not optional, even if the forecast looks sunny.
It is absolutely essential. Waterproof outer shells jacket and preferably trousers too are a must. You'll encounter mist from the lagoon, sea spray is common on the Zodiac boats, and even just walking near the surf line on Diamond Beach can get you unexpectedly wet from waves or spray.
Right.
And crucially, for anyone carrying a camera, lens cloths are completely non-negotiable. Maybe bring several.
Oh, good point. The spray.
You will inevitably get spray on your lens, even if you feel like you're standing reasonably far back. Wiping it constantly is just part of the experience there. And for stability in that wind, photographers should seriously consider bringing a sturdy tripod. Handheld shooting can be really difficult when you're bracing against strong gusts.
Okay. Windproof, waterproof, lens cloths, maybe a tripod. What about gloves? Do you really need gloves in, say, July?
Highly recommended, yes. Even in summer. Even if you only wear them intermittently, just handling ice-cold camera equipment, or maybe picking up a safe, small piece of ice from high up the beach, or simply dealing with that relentless wind chill, especially during those early morning and late evening golden light hours when it's coolest, well, it will quickly freeze your exposed finger.
Okay. Better safe than sorry with cold hands.
Exactly. Preparation for a cold, potentially wet, and definitely windy environment is basically the price of admission for being comfortable enough to truly enjoy this place.
Makes sense. Okay, finally, before anyone even steps out of their car towards that black sand, let's just quickly reiterate the final essential pre-visit checks we discussed.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's quickly recap the safety points and the timing logistics. Before you head down to Diamond Beach itself, take 30 seconds to check the local tide forecasts online. We discussed how the tide dictates the ice distribution.
Right. Affects how many diamonds you might see.
Exactly. And knowing whether the tide is coming in or going out can help you time your visit for potentially the best display. And again, always check the latest weather forecast before you commit to the walk. Conditions can change fast.
Had once on the beach.
Once you are actually on the beach, you must maintain that strict safety margin from the waves. Watch out for those sneaker waves. Never turn your back. And treat all the shoreline ice as unstable and dangerous. Admire it, photograph it, but don't climb on it or get too close to the water's edge near large pieces.
Got it. The beauty is magnificent. The risk is simply not worth ignoring.
Precisely. It's a place that rewards preparation, absolutely demands respect for the ocean, and often requires a little patience for the perfect light and conditions.
Great advice. Okay, I think we've covered the key aspects from planning the drive to experiencing the ice safely and effectively. Let's synthesize this for the listener. Hashtag, tag, outro, synthesis, and provocative thought.
Okay. As we synthesize the primary points for you, the learner, planning this Jökulsárlón leg of your South Coast trip, it really can be boiled down to maybe 4 core actions that will help guarantee the best possible experience.
Okay, 4 key takeaways.
Number 1, avoid that 16-hour endurance drive from Reykjavík at all costs. Commit to an overnight plan, staying somewhere strategic like near Vik, Skaftafell, or Heffen, specifically to spread out that 7-8 hours minimum of driving each way.
Right. Makes the trip enjoyable, not just an ordeal. Number 2.
Number 2, choose your boat experience on the lagoon based on your specific goal and budget. The Amphibian offers great value and reliable access for most people. The Zodiac provides that higher impact, closer photography experience, but comes with that significant cost premium. Know which one fits you.
Okay. Amphibian for value, Zodiac for the enthusiast willing to pay more. Number 3.
3, prioritize your visit timing. Aim for the early morning or the late evening golden light windows. This allows you to capture far superior visuals, especially on Diamond Beach, and crucially, enjoy the relative quiet and solitude away from the midday day tour crowds.
Get there before the buses arrive or stay after they leave. Makes sense. And number 4.
And number 4, critically, when you are at Diamond Beach, respect the relentless power of the North Atlantic Ocean. Remember to check both sides of the bridge outlet for the best ice distribution. Consult the tide times if you can, and never, ever climb on or stand too close to the shifting shoreline ice, and always keep a safe distance from those unpredictable waves.
Perfect. So avoid the day trip, choose the right boat, time it for the golden hour, and stay safe on the beach. Those 4 steps really seem to guarantee you get that high-impact experience the lagoon and beach are so famous for.
They really do. And perhaps here's a final thought for you to carry forward. Something derived from the highly dynamic nature of this whole geological spectacle we've been discussing. The very presence and the density of those iconic icebergs at Jökulsárlón and the diamonds on the beach, it's entirely dependent on the rate of calving from the Breidiomerkurjökull glacier behind it, right? It depends on seasonal melt patterns, on tidal cycles pushing ice in and out.
Right, it's always changing.
Exactly. So, given that this location is quite literally a dynamic reflection of ongoing geological and increasingly climatic forces, how does the ever-changing nature of the lagoon, the fact that no 2 visits will ever be exactly the same and the landscape is fundamentally different year to year, even month to month, how does that influence the perceived value or maybe the urgency of visiting this specific ephemeral location?
That's interesting. It makes every single chunk of ancient, maybe 1,000-year-old ice sitting temporarily on that black sand. It feels less like just a pretty tourist site and maybe more like watching a ticking ephemeral clock, doesn't it? A very beautiful, very cold clock.
It certainly adds another layer to the experience, thinking about the forces at play. It's an ephemeral beauty that really demands to be seen, but ideally seen with patience and thorough preparation.
Absolutely. Something powerful to ponder as you plan your own 2-day adventure on Iceland's incredible south coast. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into Iceland's icy frontier.
Always a pleasure.
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.